Yes, good morning. Thank you for an excellent presentation on some of the opportunities in Guyana. I'm Norma Shorey, and I'm the president of the Barbados chapter of the Caribbean Management Consultants Association. You spoke a lot about the productive sector and the opportunities that are opening up, and I'm also very pleased to hear of your valuing of the services sector, especially for the tourism sector. And of course, you also mentioned some of the professional services, the business development, strategic planning, organizational development, marketing, financial services. I have two questions. What is the membership in your Guyana Chamber of Commerce from the professional services sector? And secondly, can you speak about some of the needs that you see, some of the local capacity to provide those professional sector services needs, and what are some of the opportunities there for us to partner with the people who are in the professional services sector to support this excellent opportunity for growth? So those are my two questions.
Thank you. So I'll go them one by one. The first one, with regard to what our members are, I did put up a slide. I don't know if I could go back to that slide. Can you, to show that we do have some professional organizations that provide consultancy services to, I think it's at a force. Go to the force. Go back a little more. Right here. So if you look at that there, you should see a professional organization somewhere there. We do have some accounting firms as part of ours, financial services, consultancy, look there, between 10 to 15, see there? So there is capacity in Guyana, but what kind of capacity? For example, I'll say this to you, we do not have an actuary evaluation company in Guyana. Most of our companies in Guyana use Trinidadian, Bacon, and Woodrow, and we use Eckler here in Barbados. So that's to start with. In terms of other areas of management consultancy, there's always areas to work and collaborate on. Just let me say this to you. I just showed you the Stabroek block. Now, although that might be waters in Guyana, right now it belongs to the world. Because the world, everyone that is interested in Guyana is coming to partake in doing business in Guyana with respect to oil and gas, and they will look to other areas where there's spin-off, right? For example, what will Guyana do with the money that they're going to get from the oil production? It's going to go into various things. One for sure I know is education. The other one might very well be healthcare. The other one might be construction of bridges, of ports, hospitals, schools, you know. I'm sure a lot is going to go into the security sector. Each one of those things have some level of consultancy inside. The design of a bridge, the design of a highway, the design of anything that you're going to build, you must have some level of design in it, professional design. So there is consultancy everywhere. How you intend to play, that will be your wish. What part and what niche you're going to look at, that will be your wish. But there is enough to find a niche in there. There are partners there that does some work, but I'll just give you two examples of where we don't have any kind of presence, which is in the actual sciences. The big four auditing firms are in Guyana. They have a lot of smaller firms also that are in Guyana, but that is an accounting and taxation advisory and so on. But when it comes to other consultancy in terms of developing a cadre or a pool of sustainable chefs, you need that. The design system for that, the certification system for that, we don't have those things. We have them, they're not strong enough. They need to be world-class recognized. So for example, for oil and gas, I'll go back to oil and gas here. Training and development is a big thing in Guyana. You cannot send a person offshore if they're not qualified. They cannot go on a supply vessel if they're not qualified. The captain of the ship will not allow them to come on board if they're not qualified. For them to be qualified, most of them have to go to Trinidad. They got to do something called TIVO SAID exam, which is something that you have to do. If you're going to fly by an helicopter, you have to do that. If you're going to go by vessel, you have to get the STCW certification. And that is done in Trinidad. Now they started doing it in Guyana.
Okay. Any other questions? Sir?
Good morning, Mr. Indauer. And can I say what a pleasure it is to see you here in Barbados,
Yes.
rather than our usual meetings, which in your hometown. Welcome. My name is Piers Mudd. I'm president of NNP Capital Partners, which is a Barbados-based investment company. We have a number of facilities in operation and under construction in Guyana. We've been working in Guyana for about 4 years, principally focused on realizing facilities in the infrastructure and service support area, predominantly focused on oilfield service support. My team have a considerable background in oilfield services from a number of frontier markets quite similar to Guyana, from early stage inception of fields of similar size to what Guyana is seeing. And a particular area that we have a lot of experience in is local content development, and it's particularly interesting for us to try to benchmark the way in which local content development is tracking in Guyana in comparison to some markets, particularly, say, for instance, in Africa, where we have seen both mature local content legislation in place, as well as going from a total standing start, which is what we're experiencing here. So I think what would be really interesting to hear from you, Indar, is your opinion on where Guyana is currently with local content and what that means for companies that are starting. So for Bayesian companies that are looking to come and get themselves established, does the fact that local content policy is about to see ratification mean that there is going to be a stiffening up of the rules by which companies have to get themselves established? Or is it simply more of a process of encouragement to find a local partner prior to the legislation that will follow in, let's say, for instance, 12 to 24 months' time, at which point there will be a much more specifically defined way in which you legally have to partner with a local individual or company? Because at the moment, so far as we're concerned, it is an open playing field, and you yourself have said this morning that companies can come in and act independently, or they can find a partner. Obviously, I think from a local knowledge perspective, it's very beneficial to have local understanding within your partnership, to have the appreciation for the local market. But right here and now, for a Bayesian company getting established in Guyana, do they categorically need a partner legally, or is it wide open until the legislation is in place?
Okay, so let me make that clear to you. Thank you very much for the question. It's nice to see you again too, sir. So, with respect to local content, I would like to say that first, CSME gives Caribbean member states and companies within those member states the right to establish. So there's no requirement, any legal requirement that you have to have a partner in there. That is clear. Let's talk about the developing local content framework. The local content policy that they have right now in Guyana, it's a policy. It's not mandatory. The policy is there to guide local content as it would flesh out in the future. It does not mandate anyone to have a partner. In the advent of legislation, there is no legislation right now that the government of Guyana has crafted We at the Chamber crafted one and sent it to government because we have not seen them acted on it. But what we said, the legislation is 2 pages long. And as a local content expert, you would understand when something is 2 pages long, it is very flexible. It have enough workarounds in it. It have enough flexibility built into it, and it is not prescriptive. All it says is for Guyanese companies to be given forced consideration for goods and services. Consideration is a term, not preference. So there's clearly soft language in it. With the local content policy that they're going to put out, it's really to guide the entire industry in terms of local content. Now, each contract between an operator and the government of Guyana or the people of Guyana, each contract have a part in there. For example, ExxonMobil's contract with the government of Guyana, the people of Guyana, Section 18, subsection 1 and 2, have that the operator, which is Exxon, should ensure that they give Guyanese preference. They use the word preference in the contract and help Guyanese to develop capacity and so on, right? And give them preference. But that is a contract between the government and the operator. It's not a law, right? When you have a law, it's not broad-based. There's no law in Guyana like that. So there is not anything I can say to you to be scared of or to think that they will tighten up. I think the word that you use is tighten up. I don't think that it will be tighten up. Each operator have to present a local content plan to the government for approval at the beginning of every year. And with that plan that they present, obviously you have to make sense for locals and for the operator. There is no way that we in Guyana want to stymie any schedule of the operator or the operators that they have, or they right now operating. We don't want to shorten or extend their schedule. So whatever we are suggesting is to enable that to go smoothly whilst getting the locals into the system. You see, because the time frame from exploration and defined to production is so short for Exxon right now. It's never been done anywhere in the world, the time frame that they're doing in Guyana. Because it's so short, you'll find that they work with 3 speed, fast, faster, and faster. 3 speed, just keep going quickly all the time. So to get people in it at a particular speed, they have to be well-oiled machine to get into that supply chain. So we in the private sector, we don't want to trouble with that they're working with, but we would like to see Guyanese company be part of it, trained and migrated into the supply chain easily. That is why we've been pushing for local content and so on. We don't expect to do all of the services. There are some things we can't do. There's some things we can do. So my mantra from day one has been, let us do what we can do. There are certain things that we can do. Freight forwarding, logistics, certain aspect of logistics, onshore logistics, meet and greet, supply of labor, certain things we can do, you know. So if we can do them, let's do them. But if we can't, well, obviously somebody else who have the skill, they would be chosen above a Guyanese company. But I would just like you to be reminded that at the end of the day, the exploration costs for those operators out there will be sent to the government of Guyana and have to be paid by the taxpayers of Guyana, which is the people of Guyana. So in all honesty, that is why we put forced consideration, because at the end of the day, the taxpayers have to pay those bills. Right? So I hope that answers your question. And as you would know, one of the areas that you've been talking about is local content. And the government just hired a consultant to review back the entire policy to put forward something final. Right? Thank you. I think the lady at the corner.
We have another question from the floor. Jason. Robert's Manufacturing.
Hi, good morning. Jason Zambrano, Roberts Manufacturing. Just a quick question. With oil and gas revenues coming into the economy in Guyana and kind of bolstering the revenues for the government, do you see any near to mid to future restructuring of fiscal policy to make businesses coming into Guyana more attractive in terms of the taxation rates for businesses in more traditional lines of business rather than exploratory and high-risk areas or going into different far-reach areas of Guyana?
Thank you for your question, sir. At least what I can tell you is that the private sector will be pushing for that. Because if you're getting more money, then why such high tax rates? So when you check your tax rates comparative to the rest of the Caribbean countries, Guyana was on the top in terms of high rates. But if you're going to get more money, you have to drop. Now, recently in the budget, the Minister of Finance did drop the rate, dropped it further down. But you're right. If you get more monies from new income stream, then you should certainly look into reducing the taxation regime, the taxation rate, and the effective rate of tax as well needs to drop as well. Not just the rate, the nominal rate, it's the effective rate of tax. That needs to go down as well because to encourage investors, the first thing to look at what share of the pie I'm going to get and what share I got to give the government of the country you're operating in. So it's something that we'll be pushing for, and I think any smart government should look into it as well. I think it's a very important question.
Any other questions? No? Okay. So ladies and gentlemen, let's give a round of applause to Mr. Indar for what I thought was an extremely very good, informative, to the point presentation.